The best horror games may not be the most comforting things to play, but they'll definitely get your adrenaline rushing. There were some fantastic additions to the horror game genre last year. Alan Wake 2, the Resident Evil 4 remake, and Amnesia: The Bunker were all great entries. While some of these are certainly scarier than others, they are all brilliant games to play if you enjoy painfully unsettling locations and frightening chase sequences. So in this video, we are going to discuss the top 10 most scary horror games to play right now. But before starting the video, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to never miss out on any of our videos. Number 10. Little Nightmares. In Little Nightmares, you control a young girl called Six, who has to navigate a frightening world far too big for her, populated by a wide array of giant and grotesque creatures. Six is just a small girl, so you sneak past them instead of fighting these creatures. The tension in this best horror game's contender comes from navigating complicated platforming sections while also being pursued by monsters. It takes familiar domestic areas that should be comforting and turns them on their head by making them repulsive and unsafe for Six to travel through. In any other medium, using children this way would be uncomfortable, and a shrunken protagonist would more likely make us think of 90s comedy films than tense horror. So Little Nightmares makes use of it being a game in all the right ways. Number 9. Amnesia: The Bunker. Amnesia: The Bunker lives up to the petrifying history that the series has. With its claustrophobic, psychological, and bloody scares, this horror game is not to be taken lightly. Trapped in a bunker with only one exit available, you must navigate the dwindling light and precarious tunnels to complete the puzzles and secure the dynamite you need to explode your way to freedom. This creature will haunt you through the dark bunker, waiting for its moment to strike and drag you into the dark hollows below. Can you solve the puzzles while fending off this monster? Probably not without experiencing some heart-stopping scares. This title is one of the scariest additions to our best horror games list, so play at your own risk. Number 8. The Evil Within 2. The Evil Within series comes from Shinji Mikami, the mind behind Resident Evil. And if that doesn't give you enough reason to pick it up, its nightmarish world likely will. This third-person survival horror will pull you into a world populated by grotesque and frightening enemies. Mixed with dashes of psychological horror, protagonist Sebastian Castellanos never quite knows what's real and what's a horror cooked up by his own mind. While the first game is good in its own right, the sequel has some unforgettable psychological scare tactics. Number 7. Outlast. Outlast offers a first-person trek through a setting literally no one in real life would willingly check out. An old asylum that seems abandoned, but also strangely very active, at night. In the mountains, miles from help. Who does that? The setup alone is perfect horror fodder, but this plays out like found footage of the game, via clever use of a video camera's night vision mode to see in the dark. The grainy, glowing green view it creates gets a little too close to real life as well. It's one part exploring to 2 parts follow shadowy, wheezing shapes in the black distance through a viewfinder while cowering behind a table. Scary enough already, the perfection of its pixelated whirring focus pulls only adds to the atmosphere. Number 6. Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight is the best horror games for being a genuinely scary multiplayer title, showing that you don't have to be alone in the dark to be scared. In Dead by Daylight, a single player takes on the role of a savage serial killer, while 4 others flee for their lives, desperately trying to fix generators to secure their freedom. It's a thematic staple for horror, and a thrilling twist on unusual PvP combat to boot. With a host of original characters, each with their own abilities and advantages, there are methods of tactics to develop and to plot or kill all the survivors or make your escape. You can also unlock or download characters from films such as Saw, A Nightmare on Elm Street, or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which showcases the genuine love Dead by Daylight devs have for its cinematic roots. Number 5. Alan Wake 2. We waited 13 long years for Alan Wake 2, and the tormented novelist's return did not disappoint. Like we said in our review, you won't find anything else quite like it in this generation. It has everything you could possibly want as a horror fan. Terrifying foes, atmospheric dread, slick third-person action, and a gnarled storyline split between its two protagonists that, as in the shared universe of 2019's Control, straddles temporal boundaries and constantly keeps us guessing. It's a psycho thriller like no other, proving that not only developer Remedy's growth as a studio over the last decade, but why it remains top of the class when it comes to creating some of the best horror games out there. Number 4. Visage. Thanks to its eerily creepy psychological horror basis and its uncannily realistic environments. However, it may possibly trigger seizures for those with photosensitive epilepsy. This first-person survival horror game is set inside a huge and terrifying house. Here you have to explore endless mazes which fill your head with the memories of all the dead families who used to occupy this place. If you're in the mood to be truly horrified this Halloween, then Visage is the game for you. Just be warned, maybe play it with the lights on. Number 3. Layers of Fear. Most games can make you jump, they can make you scream, but few can make you doubt yourself in real life. Layers of Fear initially appears very familiar as you explore a spooky, creepy, and cavernously empty house. The gothic story unravels slowly as you play an unnamed artist returning home. It soon becomes clear, though, that madness has overtaken the painter, and it expresses itself in the unreliable narration of the physical world. Doors disappear and corridors warp out of shape just in the corner of view. The game rearranges itself in such a way to recreate the main character's madness that only a few hours in and you'll find yourself questioning everything. Was that desk on that side of the room last time you looked? Are you sure? Add to that the nature of the protagonist's illness, an obsessional painting made from less than savory materials, and you have one of the greatest horror games of all time. Number 2. Alien Isolation. Of the countless games to use this precious creative license over the years, developer Creative Assembly is the first actually to create a game that lives up to it. The game takes place 15 years following the events of the 1979 Ridley Scott film, putting players into the space boots of Ellen Ripley's daughter, Amanda Ripley, taking on a first-person perspective and squaring you off with a single xenomorph hunting you across a vast space station in darkness. Alien Isolation nails what it felt like watching the film for the first time. The vibe makes it so deserving of the title of one of the best horror games, and Isolation feels as if you're playing through the movie. Throw in the excruciatingly clever artificial intelligence afforded to the alien, along with an absolutely gripping virtual reality experiment, and you have the trappings of a modern horror classic. Number 1. Resident Evil 7. It could have been a disaster, a clunky, forced update to a revered series that left fans clamoring for the bombastic nonsense of Resident Evil 6. But Resident Evil 7 is a triumph, smartly feeding off the best horror movies of the last 20 years, effortlessly easing all that edgy new into a recognizable modern reinvention of the series. The central story is fantastic, the mysteries artfully concealed, and your tormentors, the Bakers, are brilliantly subversive. Switching the action to first person adds some VR possibilities, but also makes the horror feel uncomfortably close, grueling, compelling stuff in a setting you'll remember long after exploring it up close. But perhaps the cleverest trick is just how resi it all feels. The safe rooms have the same sense of unsettling respite, ammo feels desperately scarce, and the boss fights have the right mix of terror and glowing, oozing bits to shoot. It's a tight, smart horror game, and far better than most fans dared hope. Let us know your opinion in the comments section below. This was all for today. Hope you liked the video. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay safe, and we will be back soon with another video.